everyone, and thanks for tuning in to Real Estate 101 with Brooke Boone. I am Brooke Boone. I am a licensed real estate agent here in Tennessee. I service Tennessee, Mississippi, and Arkansas. I am a top selling agent in all three states. I am putting on an event. It is called Brunch with Brooke, and I hope that you ladies rather, will purchase your tickets on Eventbrite. Please go to my YouTube channel, Real Estate 101 with Brooke Boone, and like, share, subscribe, comment, do something. I am ecstatic today. I have a very special guest with me. His name is Brian Harris. A lot of you know who he is. Hello, Brian.
Hey, Brooke, how are you doing today?
I am doing wonderful. I'm
Awesome.
so excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me on your show.
You are welcome. So, tell us, who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, so that's a loaded question.
Okay.
So, who am I? Of course, Brian Harris. I'm a native Memphian. I've been in Memphis all my life, and I pride myself from being from this city. I grew up in 38109 in Westwood.
Okay.
I'm a product of Memphis City Schools back then.
Okay.
Graduate of Overton High School. And then I went on to get my undergraduate degree from Bethel University in organizational leadership. And I recently got a executive MBA that I got from Bethel. I graduated in May with a 4.0.
Okay, congratulations.
And, that was hard work.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And got that done. But professionally, for the last 23 years, I've been in senior management for companies such as Apple, Amazon, and Best Buy.
Okay.
Most recently, I was a director for Best Buy. They called me to come back to the company to straighten out the stores. They were having a bunch of issues when it came to service and shrink, loss of product, and we got that cleaned up. And my commitment has always been education, because my mother was a 46-year educator with Shelby County Schools.
Okay.
And she was the first black principal at Houston High School.
Oh, wow.
So,
that's interesting.
Yeah,
that's very interesting.
I said that if I ever get this executive MBA in the back half of my career, I will start a second career and teach.
Okay.
And so I decided to go into the school system. And I'm at teaching at all schools, Westwood High School.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, where I grew up.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm not sure how we became Facebook friends, but we became Facebook friends a while ago. Mm-hmm. And I have been following your journey, and I see a lot of things that you do in the community. Mm-hmm. Will you tell us about some of those things?
Yeah, so the community is special to me. I'm a lifelong member of Mississippi Boulevard Christian Church, and that church has always reared and prided itself in the community. So my exposure started years ago as a child when it comes to feeding our elderly, when it comes to serving our youth, and as it became older, because of how the church invested in me, and not just the church but other community outlets did.
Right.
I said that I believe in paying it forward.
Okay.
So what I started doing was working with our youth in different capacities. Before I became employed with Memphis Shelby County Schools, I was always a guest speaker in schools, different honors programs, different mentoring programs, and this is probably over the past 15 years. But what I'm really known for in the city is a program called Memphis.
Okay.
Which is about 5 years old now. And if you remember, years ago, there used to be a nonprofit who fed people on Thanksgiving Day downtown.
Okay.
And so 5 years ago, they went bankrupt or they lost funding or whatever, and the city went into panic because people always thought it was the city doing that, but the city partnered with that organization.
Oh.
So the city of Memphis caught a lot of flack behind it, and some city officials, Mayor Jim Strickland, his office reached out to me and 5 more Memphians and saying, hey, can you all pull this off and feed people on Thanksgiving Day? Partnered with my pastor at our church and some more entities, and we fed 750 people that year, but now it's grown to 5,000 people.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's
so it's a
really
major
awesome.
event in the city.
We were talking a little bit off camera about this. It was a story that I saw on Facebook that really made me smile and really made me become very fond of you. Will you tell us about the story that I'm talking about?
Yeah, so a friend of mine, he was in a grocery store, and I always say Memphis is a small, big city, and everybody knows everybody, and he overheard 2 young people talking about me, and they was like, hey, man, this Brian Harris dude is the truth. Man, he lives in the hood. He got money though, and but he cares
That's
about
funny.
people. Like, I'm still trying to find some of that money they were talking about. But he said he cares about people, and they said that he's always in the community helping people, whether it be our unhoused, whether it be our elderly, whether it be our young people. And what he told me was, he said, man, you never know who's watching you.
That's right.
And I've always said in leadership, you have to be the finest representation of your brand and stick to who you truly are.
Absolutely.
Because integrity is what you do when people are not watching you.
And people see you even when you don't know that they're watching.
Absolutely.
So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about your Super District 8 3 campaign.
Right.
And so tell us about, because, and I will be the first person to admit this, I'm not heavily involved in politics. I want to get more involved and learn more about Memphis politics. A lot of times we just vote for who our parents voted for. We don't really get all of the information, especially about seats. Like, everybody knows about the mayor, but not necessarily about the position that you're running for. So give us some insight on this position.
Yeah, so Super District 8 was birthed out of a lawsuit in 1991.
Okay.
Back then, black people did not have equal representation on the city council. So the late Dr. Talib Muhammad, my fraternity brother, Apostle Bill Atkins, and also Dr. Lassemba Gray successfully sued the city and won, and to create more representation for black people on the city council.
Okay.
If you think about Memphis demographics, even back then, we were still heavily populated, but now Memphis is a majority black city.
Absolutely.
And so when you have a majority black city, your leadership should reflect the population.
Right. People want to see someone that looks like them in these positions.
So as a result of this lawsuit, again, 1991, this position has always been held by African Americans. Now, the super district is broken up into 3 seats, 1, 2, and 3, which covers 19 zip codes, which those zip codes are half of the city. So Memphis has 626,000 people in the city.
Okay.
How about 325,000 live in Super District 8?
So that's a huge, that's huge. Over half.
Over half.
Okay.
Yep.
And I know you were telling me when we talked that it covers. Tell us what the district covers.
Yeah, so to put it in perspective, the map, Super District 8 goes as far east as Hickory Hill, as far west as Boxtown, excuse me. But it's also inclusive of Whitehaven, Oak Haven, you have Fraser, Orange Mound, South Memphis, downtown Raleigh, some key Smoky City.
Okay, some key African American areas.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep, 19 zip codes.
Okay. And so let's talk about some of your plans, some things that you plan on doing for the district.
Absolutely. So, we think about Memphis, the number one concern we hear right now is crime.
Yes.
It's public safety. With my 23 years in corporate leadership, I've always been trained, and through education as well, that when you devise or attack an issue, don't just attack the issue, let's attack the root cause. So before we can deep dive in crime, an easy out would be, we need to add more police officers. We need this. Okay, that's part of it. Before you can even go to that, let's look at the root cause.
Right.
The root cause of crime are poverty and lack of access. They're the parents of crime. And so until we correct those two, then crime will continue.
Right.
So to take your question a step further, from a poverty perspective, number one, when you look at our current city budget, which just got approved at $794 million, $24 million of that is allocated towards libraries. $54 million of that is allocated towards parks. Okay?
Oh.
So, and when you look at who's committing crimes in the city, it's young people.
Okay? Right. Okay.
So most young people, most crimes in this city, again, occur by young people. They happen between the hours of 3 p.m. and 7 p.m.
Okay.
That's after school. So the first thing is to address those issues, which we need to fund more services through the city to have programs in our community centers and different outlets for after-school programs for our youth. The other part of that too, as far as poverty, is have more workplace planning to train people to go in the workforce. Now,
Absolutely.
everybody is not college bound. I teach school now.
Right.
And so I'm in, and I tell people all the time, now you can be a mentor in the school, but there's a big difference between being there for 1 hour versus 8.
Absolutely.
And so I know what their burning platform and their issues are. And they always say, Mr. Harris, it's nothing for us to do, so we resort to this. And so from that perspective, if we repurpose dollars in the city, and not just city dollars, there are grants out there, federal grants that we can get to build more programming to help with the workforce, help prepare. Also have more services that reiterate the educational process in the school, and also teach them things like entrepreneurship, real estate. There's so many things our youth could do. So that's one of the components. The other side too is really economic development. And a lot of feedback I've gotten has always been all the money goes into downtown. And let's be clear that anybody that travels this United States knows that any major city is reinvesting in their downtown area.
Right.
You have to. That's the gathering place of people. That's tourism, etc. However, we need leaders that make sure that now we know that has happened, which we know downtown is a robust area. Money needs to flow back into the communities.
Right.
For programming, for housing.
Yes.
In the community.
Yes.
But before we can have housing, we need to have education around the importance of ownership versus renting. The other piece,
that's right.
and I'll close with this and turn it back, is that when we look at our housing gaps in this city, and I own real estate, I own multiple houses, so I believe in the process. However, developers are creating huge gaps and hurting home ownership. So when you think about a developer, or I shouldn't say developer, but a buyer in California or New York, who's buying houses. Investors,
okay.
Thank you.
Investors.
No, I'm sorry, not developer, investors.
Okay.
Who are buying houses sight unseen for cash, they're closing in 10 days. But a normal person closes 30 days.
45 days.
45 days.
Yes.
And so with me, that's what I've seen and what I'm hearing, especially in certain segments of the city, it's causing housing low inventory gaps.
So you know that I was going to ask you a real estate question because I'm in real estate. And so that was one of the statements that I wanted to make, is that there is a housing shortage in our city. And so this may be a tough question, but what are some of your plans, I guess, to directly affect the real estate in the Memphis area in the Super District 3?
Right. So I'll use an example. One of the areas that's being impacted heavily is where I live, which is in Glenview.
Okay.
So years ago, Glenview, you can buy a house in Glenview for $50,000. Now you're lucky if you get one less than $300,000.
Yes, that's a up and coming. It's a beautiful area.
Yeah, beautiful area. Historically black neighborhood. But the biggest thing, to go back to your question, is that as a city council person, it's a 13-member body. Okay, it takes 7 people to move a motion for ordinance or referendum. My idea as a candidate for city council or potential councilman is that we need to look at having regulations on these investors as far as the close times, extending them out.
Okay.
Now, of course, we have to open to everybody.
Right.
But again, we need to put a longer stipulation on them versus a normal person. That will help with the housing shortage, because you're giving the citizens a better opportunity or equal playing field to close faster than an investor who can pay cash and buy it sight unseen, but then flip it and put a renter in there. So that's also hurting home ownership.
You're right.
The second part of that, when it comes to the real estate piece, is having programs that educate people on what's available. You have a Memphis Area Real Estate Association. They do a lot of work when it comes to educating through different programs, first-time home buyers, etc. But I think the city needs to tap more into those entities to
It needs to be more of a joint effort.
Absolutely.
Yes, I agree with you on that.
Yeah, have forums in the community.
Yes, so that people know, and they feel like, because a lot of times us realtors, people feel like that owning a home is so far out of reach for them.
Correct.
Even when they make the money, or if they may have some credit hurdles, but they're not that far off that a little bit of work won't get them to where they need to be so that they can qualify to buy a home. So I agree with you on that.
Absolutely. Brooke, that's the main thing is education and mindset. There are a ton of people who have been paying, and nothing against renting at all. However, is that a lot of times if you're living in an apartment paying $1,500 a month, you're just burning money.
And you're not building any generational wealth.
Right.
You can't, pull money out of your home. You can't do a refi, So I get where you're coming from. And also another thing that I wanted to add, having people like you on the city council will help developers because
Correct.
There's a huge gap. We could talk about the appraisal gap and all of that, but when developers want to come in and build in the inner city, there needs to be some kind of program that's implemented that is going to be worth their time to build these houses. If they're not going to appraise, then no builders are not going to want to build in our inner city areas, especially not the big builders.
Correct.
Because they're not going to make any money. And it's kind of twofold because, yes, we understand they have to make their money. They're going to come in, they're going to build 200 houses in this community or 300 houses, but it's going to help our housing shortage because there's a housing shortage in Memphis as well.
Absolutely. And to your point, when we think about what's happening in Memphis, there was a new company, and the name escapes me, read something. They're going to open up a facility here, which is going to bring jobs.
Okay.
Also, think about Blue Oval City.
Yes.
Okay, but when you look at Madison County and Jackson, they're booming. But if we made it more accessible for developers
Absolutely.
to take some of these vacant lots and land to build a development, then we're enhancing the workforce, which is driving economic development, which drives revenue for the city.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Gets us back on track when it comes to correcting the housing shortage because we're making it affordable for people to live here. We're also educating them on the programs.
Absolutely, Brian. All of this is really good stuff. So I am going to kind of switch gears again a little bit and bring up a little bit of a controversial topic. I can't have a politician on my show and not be a little bit controversial. So it was brought to my attention, and I don't know if you've heard about this, but well, I'm sure you have. So somebody called me one day, a friend of mine, and they were like, Brooke, have you seen these signs all around the city of Memphis? And they were like, it's a white candidate running for Super District 8-3, but there's black people on the marketing the campaign signs. So I was like, you're kidding. So I started paying attention. I would drive. So, when something's brought to your attention, then it's like, okay, I see this. So I'm like, what in the world what is that all about? Why do you think a candidate that's running for this district would feel the need to put black people on signs instead of himself?
That's a great question, and I will take a stab at this. And of course, I can't speak for that candidate or their camp. This is just my educated experience, what I'm going to say.
Okay.
And I've already stated some numbers. So Memphis is a predominantly black city. On paper, we're 63% according to the 2020 census.
Okay.
Everybody didn't turn in their census paperwork, so I think it's more 73%.
I agree with you. It has to be a little bit more.
So when you look at the history of these seats in the makeup of our city, we are a predominantly black city, and like I said, in any other city, your leadership should reflect your population. And so these seats were created, despite what some may feel, were created for black people because the history says it.
Right.
We did not have equal representation. So the only thing I could say, in my opinion, why a person wouldn't want to show their face initially, because you want people to think that, hey, by me having black people on the sign, they're behind me, so you should get behind me. But I always say, if you're proud of who you are, regardless of your ethnicity, you should always show who you are.
Absolutely. I agree.
Every sign you've seen in this city of me, my billboards, my 4x4, my 4, they have my face on them.
Right.
Now, I have a ton of endorsements.
Yes.
But I don't put their face on there because they're not running for office. I'm running for office.
Absolutely.
Not them. So,
Absolutely.
that would be my educated guess.
Well, in my opinion,
Sure.
I feel like it's a little bit misleading. I guess I could use that word. That's a safe word. I just think it's very misleading to put somebody else's face on your campaign marketing instead of putting your own face on there. But that's my opinion.
Right.
And so, so thank you for that. I just, it was brought to my attention and I wanted to get a little bit of insight about that. So, when is election day?
Yeah, election day, the general election day is October 5th. However, early voting is September 15th through the 30th.
15th through the 30th.
And so that gives a 2-week period. And historically, in any election, elections are won in early voting.
Okay.
Because in early voting, you can vote anywhere. Any precinct that's available, you can vote at. So if you work downtown, but you live in East Memphis, you can vote downtown because during those 2 weeks period, you can vote anywhere. But on election day, you have to vote in your assigned precinct.
Okay.
So, like I said, I'm an analytical person from my background. So you will see the largest group of people vote within those 2 weeks during that voting time.
If someone, let's just say someone was having problems voting, what do they need to do?
That's a great question because a lot of times that we've seen issues happening the day of voting with the election commission. In the ninth hour, as I call it, people, they shift. And something goes on. So they need to call the Shelby County Election Commission if there's an issue to make them aware. They have field deputies they will send out if they're not already out to address those issues to make sure that everyone has their opportunity to vote per their constitutional right if they're registered. But again, I would say if you see any issues at any polling site, ask to speak to the deputy in charge or request one to come out to be able to correct whatever deficiency they see.
Okay.
But that has happened a lot in the past.
Okay, thank you for that. I know you're still campaigning right now. If someone wants to donate to your campaign or join your campaign, what do they need to do?
Yeah, so go to my website, which is brianformemphis.com.
brianformemphis.com.
And I want to thank every volunteer. When I say we have a massive volunteer base, it's been huge because we came out on February 6th. I rented out the old Club Paradise, which is called Soul Train Lounge now. A black-owned business. And we had over 300 people come out for our campaign kickoff. And actually, Dr. Willie Harrington, our first black school superintendent, first black mayor, he came out and supported me. Now, he wasn't a candidate then. He is a candidate now, but he came out and supported me because I've always had a great respect for him as a mentor and a leader in our city. But you can go to that website to volunteer, but also to donate. And I want to thank every donor, too, because we've done very well because of the support and belief through those platforms.
You bringing that up about we can speak a few minutes. I was about to end, but something popped into my mind. So what are your thoughts on so many African-American people, candidates, I'm trying to be politically correct here, running for mayor of Memphis because there are tons of candidates. What's your opinion about that?
Brooke, I'll tell you, it's very interesting to me to have that many people in a race. Now, be mindful, it has happened before. I think this may be one of the highest numbers, but typically you'll have 9 to 12 or 17. It's very concerning to me because, we all wake up every morning and we're a champion in our own mind. Okay, I can be the such and such of the world, but there's a thing called reality. Absolutely. And so I think a lot of our candidates, not only in the mayoral race, but also in these city council races, need to have a reality check. If you don't have a transferable skill set and a proven track record to be able to impact the city, not when you get sworn in January, you should have been doing it years ago.
Absolutely.
And it's called having receipts. Because so many people want to show up and they just think, hey, okay, I'm a superstar. Doesn't work that way.
Right.
But if you have the support, the gravitas, the, like I said, the transferable skill set, by all means, and public office is open to everybody. But I think our voters need to send a message and really do their homework on candidates and vet them properly and make an educated decision. Because with all these candidates in the mayor's race, it can be split 50 ways to Sunday.
And then you end up with somebody that has no skill set because it's this. I don't get it. But that's where I was going with this.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think eventually, we need to look at the way we do these races. In the mayor's race, there's no runoff. Now, in single-member districts for the city council, you have a runoff. Super districts, you don't have a runoff.
Okay.
And I'll close with this on that question. When you look at Nashville, they just had a mayoral election. And they do have a runoff up there. You had 12 candidates in that race.
Okay.
Now, Nashville also has over 600,000 registered voters.
Okay.
Guess how many people came out and voted in that mayor's race?
How many?
100,000. This is Nashville now.
Okay.
The largest, one of the most progressive cities. But people are burnt out because, again, you have all these people on a slate, and they become uninterested.
Yes.
So we have to think of a different way to lower the slate and get a stronger group, or people rally behind and say, you know what, Brooke is our candidate for mayor. Brian, you need to sit down.
Right.
Because we're behind Brooke because this is not your time, but she has it, and we're getting behind her.
Good answer, because, a lot of people, I think what's going on now is all these people, it's confusing.
Yeah, and it's really distracted a lot of people. They become uninterested. Yes. And when I saw that in Nashville 2 weeks ago, I'm like, now, if Nashville had a low turnout, what do you think is going to happen in Memphis? Because on average, we have about 100,000 people vote in the mayoral election.
Okay.
About 42,000 in the super districts. But analysts are projecting that the turnout will be much lower because people have lost interest, and all these candidates are just like, hey, it's just a mess. I want no part of it.
Right.
Even though it's not the right attitude to have, because no vote is still a vote for the wrong person.
Right.
If you don't exercise your right.
Absolutely.
But we need to look at changing things.
Well, this has been a really good show, and I just want to express my appreciation to you for agreeing to come on and talk to me about these things. I think you are the person for this position.
Thank you.
I am definitely behind you. I plan to donate.
Thank you.
Something to your campaign, and thank you again.
No, thank you. And again, I was honored when you called me to come on your show because anybody that's doing something for our community to educate and uplift like you are is noteworthy. And I'm honored to be in this seat to be with you. So I do appreciate you. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you. So with that being said, I am Brooke Boone. This has been Real Estate 101 with Brooke Boone. I want you to go on my YouTube channel, subscribe, like, share, comment, do all of those great things. Don't forget, ladies, to purchase your tickets for my event. It's called Brunch with Brooke. It is going to be at the FedEx Event Center on September the 24th. It is going to be a fabulous women empowerment event. I cannot wait to see you guys there. And as always, I would love to be your realtor.